last group. Again, thank you everybody for coming. We have the Baja group with the students here, and thank you all for participating and working with our students. Super cool. Again, like faculty that are here, Valerie, Patty, Mike, and two advisors, Jill and Andrea. Carl from engineering, David from engineering, and then Dan's over here. And then thank you all for coming, and I will turn it over to the Baja.
Okay. Well, yes, hello everyone. Just as Adam said, thank you so much for coming. We are Agency 9, and we were able to work with the Husker Racing Baja SAE team this semester. I just wanted to introduce ourselves. My name is Kaylee. I'm the account executive. Zach is our strategist. Courtney was our graphic designer and creative, and Lindy's our project manager, who's going to start us off with our campaign challenges.
Thanks for the introduction, Kaylee. Like she said, thanks for joining us. We're going to start off with the campaign challenges. So as a group, we identified 3 main challenges that we wanted to overcome throughout our campaign. These challenges include brand awareness, fan engagement, and sponsor recruitment. So we noticed that over the past few seasons, Husker Racing Baja SAE hasn't had quite as many marketing resources as may have been necessary, and so we wanted to focus on helping them build brand awareness and fan engagement through social media and events, and also recruit new sponsors. Since it is a registered student organization, they need sponsors to help them stay afloat and keep their team running. Before we get too deep in the campaign challenges and how we plan to overcome them, we wanted to start off with some organization history. So we keep saying Baja SAE. SAE stands for Society of Automotive Engineers, and the first ever Baja SAE competition happened in 1967, and it kind of took off from there, and the UNL Husker Racing Baja SAE team became a registered student organization on campus in 1996. Today they have about 17 or so extremely active members with a couple 4 to 5 irregular participants. So the projects that they work on require extensive planning and manufacturing tasks that can often be found when introducing a product to an industrial market. And they begin the design process on their cars in August and build them throughout the semester. And the competitions begin in April and go through the summer. So here is a little chart showing the success they've had in competitions over the last 4 or so years. As you can see, DNC means they did not compete. So each year they've competed in 2 or 3 national competitions. They had a pretty successful season in 2016, taking home 5th and 7th place the first 2 competitions, so that's exciting. We're excited for what's to come in 2017. But in terms of consumers, we broke down our audience into 2 different groups. The first group being students. These people are aged 18 to 24, and they're either current UNL students or plan to attend UNL in the near future. They're interested in engineering, design, potentially accounting, and they're looking to be involved in competitive atmosphere in a community-like environment, and this is the group that's most likely to engage in social media. Our secondary audience is adults aged 35 to 45. According to MRI data, they typically have minimal college education. Their average household income is about $80,000 to $150,000, and they are often connected to the engineering and manufacturing industries. So our competitive analysis, we broke up their competition into about 3 different groups, which would be internal, overall Baja SAE, and then professional. So internally, Husker Racing has a counterpart or a sister team, which is Formula 1 style racing. So they do on-road racing, whereas Baja SAE does off-road racing. In terms of nationally, there's a ton of collegiate teams. Some of the competition that we think are most important would be Rochester Institute of Technology, University of Michigan, and Cornell. And these teams are fairly successful at competitions, and we just looked into some other aspects of what they do as a team, which Zach will address later, but they function on budgets of nearly $100,000, and our team functions at about $15,000, so they have a lot more resources and can get a lot of tools that the Husker Racing chapter cannot, so they're definitely competition for us. And then professional Baja, in the Lincoln area, we found 3 different teams, which would be MRO, Off-Road, LRC Racing, and Team Speedway. And this map right here just kind of identifies where some of the races take place throughout the year. So big ones happen in California, Kansas, Illinois, and then there's also international races. So in Brazil, Mexico, South Africa, and Korea.
Cool. So I'll just stick in here. So after analyzing our brand, our consumer, and our competitor, we're going to dive into our research here, and these are our five research objectives in which we tried to emphasize throughout our research process. So the first one being to determine how the team wants to grow in the future. The team is in our Baja organization. To compare how other teams interact with their fans, mainly via social media. To understand why Baja interests its audience. To describe what kind of people are interested in Baja racing, and then from there develop a target market profile, which we did with our MRI data. Lindy briefly discussed the two audiences we came up with. And then to understand the roles in which sponsors play within the community. So moving forward to some of our secondary research, we conducted three main things, which was look at MRI data, scholarly articles surrounding these schools and their community, and then looked at these schools' social media. So right here, we got Rochester Institute of Technology in orange, Michigan in blue, and Cornell in black. So Twitter was something in which our current Baja team was not a part of prior to our campaign. So as you can see, 10 followers is kind of low there, but that is progressing, and that's something that we continue to work, or that we plan on continuing to work on. But right here is where we see the biggest discrepancy. Is the number of Facebook likes to the page. The three schools in which we compared are right around that 5,000 mark, whereas Nebraska's right around the 1,000 mark. So that kind of shows just where we're at as far as social media presence. And then from there, the examples we got from these other schools we'll eventually incorporate into our creative brief, which Kaylee will get to in a little bit. Transitioning into some of our primary research, we also conducted, we had three things there in which we used. First one being our current sponsor interview. So we interviewed some of the current sponsors that are involved in the Baja organization. And what we found is that a lot of the sponsors are either former UNL students or have some sort of Baja tie, or either play a role in the engineering industry. And then as far as talking about what are some of the things sponsors look for in students or organizations in which they want to work with and sponsor, they talked about professionalism and communication being some of the important factors. So that's something we really wanted to hone in on. And then we pulled this quote. The most rewarding part about being a sponsor is just understanding and knowing that the kids are actually building things and doing things that I do every day, but on a smaller scale. Tobin Watson said that, and for us that really that gave us insight as to the sponsors don't necessarily want to just hand you the money, have you slap their name on something and just go about it. They want to be involved, they want to know the process, they want to be more involved, I guess, with within Baja Racing and know what's going on and know where specifically their money is going. So moving on to some of the team member interviews we conducted. This is where we gained a lot of the strengths that we found within the Baja community. It seemed like a lot of the current team members are like really free-spirited. They really like the family-like atmosphere in which Baja represents. And they like the connections and the relationships that they've gained within being a part of the organization. And so then moving on from there, we did conduct a survey. So our team put it out on Facebook, as well as some of the current team members in the Baja organization put it out on their Facebook. We also put it in the University of Nebraska at Omaha engineering newsletter, as well as an engineering newsletter here at the university. So we got 161 responses, and then of those 161, 71% of those respondents were aged 17 to 22, so they fell into that primary category in which Lindy discussed about earlier. And then our graphs here, these are 2 of the 8 questions in which were on the survey. The survey was just a general survey to see what kids knew about Baja and what kids didn't know about Baja and how they get their information through the university. So our first one was, how do you follow teams and organizations that you are interested in? Sports teams, etc., examples like that. And in order, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter were the top answers. So kind of going back to the secondary, when we focused in on the Facebook likes on the pages, obviously Facebook was the #1 response, so we felt like that's a media in which we really wanted to hone in on. And then what interests you about racing. Something that interests the people was competition, the idea of competing, and then within the Baja organization, it was that family-like atmosphere in which we talked about that got them to stay. So moving forward into our SWOT analysis, I'll briefly just discuss some of the strengths. Like I said, from the team member interviews that we got, we understand that the people like the hands-on experience and they love the community atmosphere, so that's something we really want to push for new students and new engagement. As far as weakness goes, obviously I touched on the lack of social media presence. We feel like with that comes marketing resources. So as far as weaknesses, social media presence is something that really stuck out to us, and that's what we wanted to focus on moving forward into our creative brief. Some of the opportunities are obviously the relationships that I've talked about you build with the sponsors. Those for current UNL students could either lead to an internship or even potentially career opportunities. So we talked about the opportunity to build relationships and meet new people there. And then lastly, with some of the threats that we're faced with, Lindy discussed some of the competition, things like that. There are a lot of threats within the Baja community. So wrapping that all up into one, Kaylee is going to take over and talk about how we dove into our creative brief.
So as Zach described with all of our research, as well as our internal and external analyses, we were able to position Husker Racing's Baja SAE team to adults ages 18 to 24 and 35 to 45 who are interested in the process of building and racing off-road vehicles. Baja SAE is a racing community comprised of enthusiastic fans and supportive sponsors. We also use this positioning to work with all of our creative pieces, so they were all consistent throughout the campaign. And then this whole concept of building a community allowed us to come up with the campaign's big idea, which is centered around the idea of building an engaged fan base to position Husker Racing Baja SAE as a leader in the community. And by using the brand logo and the brand colors, we are able to create a brand association, which will allow us to communicate messages not only across campus, but within the racing community as well. And so building those positive relationships is going to lead to a greater opportunity for fan involvement and engagement, not only on campus, but on social media and at events as well. And just as building a car and has a lot of technical elements, so does our campaign. So we came up with a tagline, Building Baja, and that's going to just encompass this idea of building a fan base, building a brand, and building sponsor relationships. So our first creative piece is going to be our promotional video. It is a 30-second video that utilized 360-degree video footage and was taken at an event in Kentucky that two of our members actually had the opportunity to travel with the Baja team to. It's really cool. You're actually in the viewpoint of the rider, and you can, like I said, do a complete 360 of your surroundings. So I'll share that with you. Okay, so that short video is intended to be shared on social media, kind of as a hype video to introduce the team to potential fans and sponsors. And then we also are able to talk a little bit about our second video that we did. This is a longer educational piece, not only to be shared with fans, but also sponsors to give them a little bit more knowledge about what Baja SAE is all about. So two of the team members were actually interviewed, Amber and Bradley. Amber, right here. So they talk about their experience in Baja, how important the hands-on experience is, and just the community-like fun atmosphere that they share. So not only are the interviews in there, but there's also going to be clips from competitions and races, and also just the fun that they have together.
All right, so in addition to the video, we thought it'd be a great idea to have some sort of event to keep gaining traction for Baja. So for this event, we wanted to put on something that kind of did more good for the community. So we wanted to have an event with the group Engineering Without Borders. So they're a nonprofit group, and we thought they'd be a great fit for the Baja team. So for the event, multiple teams across from the Midwest are going to be invited. So they have the chance to kind of have a little mini race there. Fans could come, get the chance to meet the drivers, meet the team, see the cars. Basically just gives them a great chance to look at the cars in person and kind of see this team and community aspect, and hopefully this would get them kind of pumped to want to join this team and be a part of the Baja community. So over off to the right here we have a flyer. So we wanted to have these flyers around campus, and especially in the engineering college, but also during the Big Red Welcome event, Baja would have a booth set up and they'd have these flyers there as well, and they'd be able to kind of talk to people coming up who are interested in the event. And so it'll be $10 to go to, and like I said earlier, it will go to the Engineering Without Borders nonprofit. Along with the flyer, we wanted to have some social media to help push out the event and kind of keep that momentum going for Baja. So as we kind of talked about earlier, Facebook is kind of on our lower end, and we definitely want to push more Facebook posts out and get those likes on Facebook and kind of get up there with the other teams that we're competing with. So this is just an example of basically the team saying we're getting ready for the Big Red Welcome. We're excited for students to come check us out. And then in addition to that, we wanted to come up with a Snapchat filter during the actual event. So you can see at the bottom it has the logo, and then it has the Building Baja hashtag. So for those who are at the actual event at Abbott, on the whole radius of Abbott, you can pull up your Snapchat. The filter will be there, so we're hoping that students will go and they'll get on Snapchat, see the filter, think it's really cool, and use it. And of course other people will see it and be like, wow, Baja, what's that? So we definitely want people to see that and be more interested and want to be a part of that. In addition to the charity social media, we just have some more general social media. We want to make sure that we're consistently pushing out new tweets, Instagram posts, Facebook posts, just because we want to keep the Baja name going. So here is an example of Team Member of the Week post. So we wanted to have these weekly highlighting a team member and what they've kind of done in Baja and what they plan to do after graduating. And we hope that people would see this and see that other team members are enjoying their time in Baja and hopefully want to join as well. Another example post we have here is on Facebook. So as we kind of talked earlier, sponsors play a big part with the team and helping them out. So we thought it would be worthy to every once in a while mention those sponsors and just give them a thank you and let them know that we appreciate the work that they've done for them. And then on the far right here, this is just an example of a Twitter post that we were planning to have for the competition. So similar to how the football team kind of pushes out these tweets or Facebook posts that keep fans updated with the score of the game, we wanted to have posts that say they passed their inspection or they're working on their car right now, just to kind of keep everybody in touch and let them know exactly what's going on, and so they can be more engaged and the team can feel like they have a purpose, kind of letting everybody know what's going on. So this is just a media plan that we came up with, and this only shows 6 months, but we do have it for the full year, and this would be August 2017 to August 2018. So as I said earlier, it's just all about keeping that consistency, keeping these posts going, hopefully having more people follow and like them, and more people being knowledgeable about the team. So just to highlight a couple of our ideas that we would push out through the year. So as I talked about earlier, we have the Team Member of the Week post, and we plan to do that throughout the whole year. We wanted to target incoming freshmen and make posts oriented towards them so they can kind of come into school, hearing about this community, community, and hopefully would want to join. So we kind of wanted to make sure August, September, right before school, we're having these posts letting people know all about Baja before they get there. Also, down here, we have plans to put out those videos. So the 360 video that we showed you guys, kind of the pump up video, we wanted to do that just to get people excited and see kind of what Baja is. But then also we wanted to kind of stagger doing the pump up video and the educational video. So not only will they kind of get excited and get a feel for it, but also they can hear people talk about their experiences in Baja and be more educated on the topic and make that decision for themselves if they'd like to join or not.
So to wrap up all of our ideas, Building Baja is about sponsor outreach, interactive events, and engaging social media content. And with all of those elements, it's going to connect students and racing fans with the Husker Racing Baja SAE team. Therefore, they will be able to position themselves as a leader among competitors, not only in the racing community, but also among student RSOs on campus. They are building a fan base, they're building sponsor relationships, and as I said, this whole campaign is to build the community atmosphere that Baja is all about. So thank you guys for building Baja with us. The rest of our team is going to join us. Emily and Eva are both our PR and media people, and then Taylor and Chelsea over here worked on our videography. Do you have any questions that we can answer for you? Any from you guys?
First, I would like to commend you for a very good job. It flowed very well.
Thank you.
can see where you are coming from, all the way from research to your strategy. And the survey that you did, or the primary and secondary research, you tied it very well. You talked about in your primary research, the survey portion, there was a question about what interests you in Baja. There was an element of, was it competition and then fun?
Yep, competition, and then do you want to go back to the survey actually?
What interests you about racing specifically was the question.
The second one,
So yep, it's actually going to be competition and then the atmosphere or environment, which is kind of what we took and ran with as far as community, and then as well as the technology and engineering portion of it as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
So did you seek to have any of those incorporated into your campaign? What interests you about racing? Competition, right?
Right, so that's going to be a lot of the social media posts as far as going through the whole building process with people as well as the competition race updates. And then with our charity event, it is a mini race event with teams all from the Midwest in attendance. So that is also going to give fans and potential sponsors a good idea of what the racing atmosphere is all about.
So anyone with a competition spirit will have a chance to experience it.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
I like that in your media plan, you had all these different elements that were kind of layered together.
Mhm.
Which of those do you think would have the largest impact on reaching your audience?
Media people want to?
Are you talking post-wise? What impact, or just in general?
In general,
Well, our goal for the social media is to focus on the competition aspect and like the building of it, because when someone hears Baja, they don't actually know what it is and referencing to it. So the goal of the social media post would to be engage with the team itself, so showing them like building the car, manufacturing parts, fixing parts. So the goal was to engage that way, so they have an insider look of what actually goes on besides the competitions and just seeing the races themselves. So the goal with the social media post was over the year to show what actually goes on in the process of building the cars.
As a follow-up, when you look, you had two particular age groups, correct?
Yes.
And so I was a couple of things, I was hoping you could compare and contrast what you found between what interested those age groups and then any gender differences that you might have observed or been interested in.
Do you want to go?
So the reason we separated the two groups is because we think that our main audience is going to be students, because it's your peers that are participating in these things, and like we said, they're the most likely to engage on social media. So that's one of the reasons we separated it. In the secondary audience, we're hoping to target the sponsors and those who are actually involved in the industry and likely to donate or help or be mentors to the team. And so in terms of the surveys, Zach mentioned that the biggest group that took the survey was 17 to 22-year-olds. We did have a few older people take it, but very few, and so we really didn't separate the research out too much, but we did find they engaged on Facebook the most. Typically they're not quite as involved on like Twitter or Instagram, and they also agreed on what interests them about racing, the competition aspects, and the environment itself.
And to go off of that, I was able to go with the team to Kentucky, and seeing the fans that were there were a lot of older, the secondary group. So it was nice to see that it wasn't just students, and not just the students were participating. There was a lot of like parents and sponsors being curious what the money was going towards and what they were spending their time on. So that's another way that we saw that.
You talked about the need to build awareness of the competition and the team and so forth, and part of that's going to be, just developing name recognition. How would you advise the folks that are doing the communication to deal with the conundrum on campus that we've got a very popular fraternity that goes by SAE? How do they deal with that confusion?
I think typically,
My roommate asked me that question last night, actually. I was like,
well, when we've talked about it a lot, we refer to it as Baja. Husker Racing Baja SAE has become a huge mouthful. So, inside of the shop, I'm not sure, do you guys refer to it as just Baja? Or? So I think that, we kind of just cut the second half off. So it's just, it's Baja, and then there's the fraternity SAE, and I guess that's kind of how we identified them.
The Baja SAE name is actually more of the formal name than anything. So when you're in competition, it's Husker Racing Baja SAE, but when talking about it conversationally, it's definitely just Baja because you know exactly what's being talked about. So there is usually not a confusion at all.
Also, along all of our social media posts, this Building Baja campaign, doesn't have SAE in it at all, because we did experience that too when doing research on social media. If you typed in SAE at all, that also directly goes to the fraternity, as you were saying. So we wanted to stray away from that with the use of the tagline and hashtag throughout social media as well.
I have a question. Who was on your 360 video? Was very cool. Who was driving the car? Who was behind the wheel?
It was one of the team members, actually. We brought it up to them about doing a 360 video because they had GoPro footage, and that's not as fun because you can't see the track itself. You just see a frontwards position, and they were all for it. I know Joe was super excited about it.
Yeah, and then if you guys are interested afterwards, we do have the Google Cardboard goggles that you can use with a phone that, if you turn them, that also enables the 360 footage. So that's a really cool thing that we have as well if you guys want to mess around with that.
I feel like you should maybe end it with I was yearning to see who was driving, so I would have loved to. Or maybe there's a fun title, just find yourself in here, or something, some
Right.
fun call to action that lets me
See it
understand
for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
why you deprived me of that.
That's good to know.
I can tell you
What's
his
that?
name. It was Jeremy.
Yeah, I think our main selling point with the 360 video was you can't see the driver, so you're able to place yourself in the
Sure.
vehicle as if you're
And
driving
maybe a
the
little
car.
nudge to that, 'cause it's
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. I
smart,
should
so
have
why not just
referenced
help
that.
them
So, yeah.
process that.
Professor Harding brings up a good point about she was yearning for something. I was yearning for a call to action. So building Baja is great, but it doesn't tell me what you want me to do. So maybe you could actually have a second line to that or something. A common call to action telling viewers or audience members what to do.
Okay.
Can you answer that? What do you want people to do?
Interact on social media, engage, keep up with what the team is doing.
Attend our event. And if you like the team and what they're doing, your age group also typically fits into our larger demographics. So with those people sharing information, even if you can't necessarily be a sponsor, if someone else takes a hold of that and we can gain sponsorships that way just by spreading the message, that's also going to be very beneficial. Sure. I think we could definitely have an even deeper focus on incoming freshmen specifically because they are so bogged down with all of the organizations that are all thrown at them as soon as they come in. So to be able to allow them to join early, I know Joe actually mentioned that when we had a client briefing with him one time, that a lot of people join in their later years just because they aren't fully aware of the organization until then. So if we can target them right at the start and get them involved with the organization from the beginning, I think, yeah, to answer your question, that would be another group that we would like to dive into further. We did that.
Also, to go off of that, I think bringing in other school or like other colleges to come in, I know it'd be beneficial if they had like advertising or even marketing or business people come in, so they can have a wider variety of people. Because I know when looking into jobs, as I graduate in December, there's a lot of areas that I didn't realize that I could be social media or work in advertising for them. So I think it'd be beneficial just to broaden the horizon of other colleges too.
And that was something that Joe mentioned also during the client briefing is, they still have to do accounting and they, want to be active on social media and market and stuff. So, like she said, just broadening the horizon of the colleges at UNL, getting some math students in there or finance or anything like that could